everybody. We're here to, before we start the select board meeting, we're going to swear in the new select board members. If the new members would come up, please, and I'll swear you in.
Is this exciting? This is exciting.
And if you'll just sort of stand so the audience can see you and so the camera can see you. A little more this way, a little more on an angle. Oh, God. Oh.
This way?
Nope.
Where do you want me to stand? Come on, take my arm.
Over here.
Like this? Okay.
How's that?
Oh, there we
Yes,
are.
that's fine.
You can even line up.
Whatever she wants.
Are we ready?
We are.
Ready. So if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, John
Donna
Allen,
Macomber,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will execute the duties of select board member
that I will execute the duties of select board member
for the town of Brattleboro
for the town of Brattleboro,
for the period to which I have been elected,
for the period to which I have been elected,
and therein will do equal right and justice
and therein will do equal right and justice
Thank you, you almost messed me
to
up.
all people
To all people,
people,
in the best of my judgment and ability,
in the best of my judgment and ability,
according to law.
according to law.
And that's it.
We're really a tough campaign.
I know you did.
Yep. I couldn't get reelected on both next time.
Oh, I know.
I'm sorry, Annette?
I need to open the meeting.
You want a chair?
That's right. No,
I'll just stand right here.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll now convene the meeting of the Brattleboro Select Board on Monday, March 23rd at 5:17 p.m. Has the meeting been officially warned?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. And the first item on the agenda is for this board to appoint its chair. Do I have any nominations?
Nominate David Gartenstein.
I second that.
Okay, I have nomination for David Gartenstein. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll close. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Guess you've got it. Oh,
Campaign.
So we're ready for nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Kate O'Connor.
I second that.
We have a nomination of Kate O'Connor. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Kate O'Connor being vice chair of the board, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0.
I guess I'll vote for myself.
5-0. All right, and then we're looking for nominations for clerk of the board.
I nominate David Scholes.
David Scholes has been nominated as clerk of the board. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0. The next matter on the agenda is to establish our meeting schedule. Our standard meeting schedule has been the first and the third Tuesday of each month at 6:15. Is that the board's pleasure to continue that meeting schedule?
Such a pleasure.
Excellent. All those in favor of meeting the first and the third Tuesday of each month for our regularly scheduled business meetings at 6:15, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0.
Just one comment before we, I understand that at some point in the near future, we're going to be looking at our, is it code of conduct or whatever that, yeah.
At the April 7th
In
meeting.
that process, I'd like us to, between now and then, think about the amount of time that we spend in these meetings. I shouldn't say spend, I should say take in these meetings, and the effect it has on staff who have been here since 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and staff that come in and wait around for hours and hours just to get to them, and consider reorganizing and also looking for some efficiency options to be able to get our business done in a shorter period of time. Wow, I guess that was a So think about it, it's coming up, it's just,
I just don't know how.
after 2 hours, the human body is not functioning, in a chair, the human body is just, metabolism is slightly above a dead person. And I'm not saying that to be funny, that's exactly what happens. And our brains aren't working that well either. I just think it's abusive, what we do, staying here at 10 o'clock, and we need to find a way around it. If we have to meet more often when we have a packed agenda, that's one option, but we just have to be better.
I think if we can cut down on executive sessions a little bit more than we did last year, then that would help.
That would be nice.
That would help a lot.
There was a period of time when the Development Review Board was meeting late until 10 or 11 o'clock, and we wound up having to break those meetings into two and meet twice a month. It's not really clear to me that the amount of time we're taking in these meetings is beyond what's necessary to do the town's business in public session. So I'm not really aware that there's a way to make the amount of business being transacted any shorter. And if we need to break the meetings up into smaller units that are happening more often, we'll certainly raise that as a discussion topic. But
And I'll do some research and some thinking and bring some proposals.
yes, please.
David, are you thinking more like on when they set the agenda?
No,
To look
no, I
at
haven't
it
really
more
been thinking,
in-depth?
well, I haven't been thinking about that. It's just that we go on and on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, we were so
That's why we
bad,
get
everybody left.
that's why we get the big bucks, buddy.
Yeah, maybe you.
Any further discussion about that topic? All right, so the next matter on the agenda is under new business. Well, I guess we should have public participation. Is there anybody who's in attendance and wants to speak to a matter that's not on the agenda?
Molly?
Okay, so the next matter on the agenda is Green Street retaining wall. Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You heard extensively about this at the last meeting, so unless you wish to ask additional questions about the scope of the project, history of how it got to here, where we intend to go from here, we don't intend to readdress that this evening. The purpose of this evening is on this expedited timeframe that we're working with in order to submit our urgent needs CDBG application to the state, that we need to have a public hearing this evening regarding that application for a $300,000 grant towards this project. And so that's the only reason that it was inserted into this meeting rather than having it be part of a regular meeting, is so that we can meet the April 6th deadline to submit the application, which is the day prior to our next regular meeting on April 7th.
All right. So is there any further comment about the Green Street retaining wall before I open the public hearing?
I just have one, and it's about the product that we're using for the wall itself. I don't know, has that been settled completely yet? I mean, what we are going to use?
You
I know it was-
authorized us to, well, actually you did.
I know.
The board authorized staff to proceed with the Ready Rock product.
Yeah.
Based on reliability issues vis-a-vis the other choices, a combination of reliability, cost effectiveness, and for those that were in approximately the same price range, in the $500,000 to $550,000 range for the total project, the advantage that this is a product that quite a large number of local contractors have experience working with, and we expect a more competitive bidding climate when we actually get to that stage.
Yeah, I'm just really in favor of
The stone.
the stone. You know, and the
But they
more,
can make this stuff brown.
and
It becomes brown.
the more I thought about it, and I don't know if we have the ability to change that at this point. Or can we research a little bit more? Or
Have the ability to change it. It's a couple $100,000 higher
Oh,
price tag.
I agree that it is, but it's also a product that'll last 100 to 200 years.
And your colleagues heard Steve Barrett advise them that if we had sufficient funds to do things every time the way we'd like to do them, he'd rather do that wall.
Okay. I'm just bringing up a concern. That's all.
Okay. Well, if the board wishes to revisit that, we need to revisit it right now.
No, I don't want to.
Or in the absence of any further direction, we'll proceed with the Ready Rock
There you go.
specs.
I would opt to proceed. I agree with the aesthetic
Well,
value.
it's more than aesthetics. It really is. It's the longevity of the product itself. So I just, penny wise and pound foolish. That was just, and I don't know if we got into it as much as I probably would like to have, but it may be a moot point at this point.
Well, what I'll say at this point is that we had extensive discussion at the last select board meeting. It's one of those things that made the meeting last longer than
And I was-
the schools might have liked.
It was my
was
too. I was the one that did it.
Right,
And it
and,
would have been longer if I was there.
but we had a lengthy discussion, including a slide presentation and healthy inquiry of the Public Works Director, and ultimately made
Yep.
the decision based on all the information to take their recommendation and go with the Ready Rock in order to qualify for this CDBG Urgent Need Grant. I certainly would suggest
And I certainly don't want to delay that at all. So that's
having a public hearing and doing what we need to do procedurally, and then if you want to communicate further with the town manager and the director of public works, and you want to see if we can't ask for another special meeting to be convened, we certainly can look into that.
I just wanted one more bit of information. When I asked Steve about, when he mentioned the stone, he said it'll last 100 years, I'd love to do it, all of that. And then I said, well, how long is the Ready Rock gonna last? And I don't remember exactly what you said, but it was something like, well, 75 years or so. And it was, so that was enough to say, okay, we're not being penalized for foolish. I feel exactly the same way, and I asked that, if you'd been here, I wouldn't have had to ask the question. You would have asked that, and I asked all the other ones.
Well, just thought I'd,
Yeah, good try.
good try.
All right. So now we're going to convene the public hearing on the CDBG Urgent Need Grant application for funding for the Green Street retaining wall project. The materials that we've been provided to consider include all those that were distributed and made publicly available at the last meeting that are all on the town's website under the meeting materials that were distributed for the
17th.
March 17 meeting. And there's another 3 informational sheets that are available for review. Is there any comment or presentation from anybody on the board or anybody else about the urgent needs CDBG grant application on the Green Street retaining wall? Peter, is there any action we're going to be taking tonight?
Once you've received any comment, which it appears you're not going to receive any, you just close the public hearing and authorize us to proceed with filing the application. Thank you.
In the form that the motion is included in this March 19 memo?
Yes, please.
Very nice. Is there any further comment about the Green Street retaining wall and the CDBG Urgent Needs Grant? Hearing none, I close the public hearing, and we're ready for a motion.
I move to adopt the resolution for grant application authority as presented to identify Patrick Moreland as the point of contact and to identify Peter Elwell, town manager, as the authorizing official.
Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0.
There is actually one other piece too, I'm
All right,
sorry.
yeah.
The reason that we're asking you to also authorize the $92,500 is that is the anticipated town share. We'll know for sure once we've been out to bid with the project, but for the Ready Rock alternative, we expect that it'll be $92,500 of additional town funding required, and it will enhance our application to have you have authorized those funds and have us be able to say so in the application.
Ready for a motion to assign money from the fund balance for the Green Street retaining wall project.
I move we assign $92,500 from the fund balance for the capital fund and the Green Street retaining wall project.
Is there any discussion on that from anybody on the board or anybody who's in attendance? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0. Next matter on the agenda is an update from Sue Minter, Secretary of the Vermont Agency of Transportation on the I-91 Bridge project. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey.
So thanks for fitting me into your agenda. I want to just say that I'm here. I want to introduce who I'm here with. This is Rich Tatro, who is the Chief Engineer for VTrans, as well as Wayne Simmons, who is the Director of the Structures Program, in charge of all of the bridges around the state. Also, Eric Foster, who is our resident engineer on the project. He may be a familiar face to many of you. Really happy to be here in Brattleboro, had some time to spend in your town where I don't often get, so I was glad to do that. Happy to, at the end of this discussion around the bridge, answer other questions that may be of concern to you on my plate, on our collective plates. But I really specifically do want to spend some time updating you on the bridge, and in particular about an adjustment to the schedule for the bridge. I'm going to start just by setting the context a little bit, if I could. We have an aging infrastructure in Vermont and throughout the Northeast, and we are really committed to rebuilding it and rebuilding it in a more resilient way. And I think as you look at the numbers, I'm going to show you some information, and I'm not going to get into it in detail, but we are making tremendous progress. I want to recognize the state legislature has been supporting us. In 2009, we passed a transportation infrastructure bond fund that has been really targeting our bridges. At that time, the state had evaluated, after a major disaster in Minnesota, a collapse of a bridge. The federal highway required every state to post their structurally deficient bridge numbers. At that time, Vermont was 48th in the country. We had among the highest number of structurally deficient bridges in the country. The legislature has been investing in this, and we have been making significant progress. At that time, we had over 20% of our bridges were structurally deficient statewide, and now in 2014, we have brought that number down to 7%. And this is a little bit of a complicated graph, but it actually shows you by the type of bridge. This is interstate bridges, state bridges, town highway bridges, and the shorter structures, how in each category we have been making tremendous progress. So I really want you to know that, because it is something we are very committed to and making real progress on because of the investment our taxpayers are giving to us. It does also depend on federal money, and I need to tell you that we are at a very insecure time in terms of our future federal funding. The Federal Highway Trust Fund is set to become insolvent in late May. Congress needs to act. I have been in Washington twice in the last 2 months, including accompanying Governor Shumlin testifying before the Senator Sanders committee about the importance of this money, and we hope you will share in that. The bridge that we want to update you on is actually funded, 90% of the funding for that bridge, and every interstate bridge is funded through the federal dollars. So those dollars are very critical to all of us, but in particular our interstate, which I know is essential to your local economy. This is showing you, really just highlighting in this case the bridges along the interstate in your region. These are bridges, the interstate was built about 50 years ago, and most of these bridges were built to last 50 years. And they are now in need of significant either rehabilitation or reconstruction all along the interstate. But this really shows you that we've begun here in your region. And the bridge we're going to update you on is one of 6 that we're building here. And when you think about it, we really are rebuilding our interstate. And the generation that preceded us gave their homes, lands, and businesses and a decade of time to building this incredible asset that now it is our turn to reinvest in. And we are building for the next generation. This bridge is set to last 100 years. So I know it is creating inconveniences for the travelers in this area, for this community, and I know it is a sacrifice, but in comparison with the sacrifice that our preceding generation made on our behalf, I think it's important to bring it into perspective. And I really want to also emphasize why it's so important that we make these investments. When I served in the legislature for 6 years, it happened at the time of the Minnesota disaster. I served representing the town of Waterbury. There was a bridge in Middlesex that was closed in an emergency on one side, a bridge in Richmond that was closed by emergency, and then the Champlain Bridge. And I know the havoc that it wreaks on communities if we don't make these investments before it is too late. So that's why we are dedicated to doing this, and that's what you see here. And I want to also say that we've been really focusing not just on getting the job done, but on innovating. We have an accelerated bridge program, and we can maybe speak more about it. I want to recognize Wayne and the leadership he provides, not just in Vermont, but in this country, through this accelerated bridge program. And there are innovations in every one of these bridges, including the bridge that is your bridge that we're here to update you on. And I wanted to come personally because this bridge is behind schedule. We are going to have an extended schedule. It's going to have to go through another whole construction season to reach completion. And that is not the news I like to bring to you. What's innovative about this particular bridge is that it's built with a design-build contract. Normally, we, the state, design a bridge, and then we put it out to bid, and a contractor builds it. This is one of the first bridges that we've done as a design build. So we have a contractor, which is a team of a design team and a building team, and they're working together under one contract. If we had gone the normal route, it would have taken, we predict, some 5 years just to get to the point of putting the bridge out to contract. We are building in just over 3 years from bid to completion this incredible, extraordinary feat of engineering, which you'll learn more about. So we're doing it in an expedited fashion, and I do want you to keep that in perspective because we are having an increase in the schedule that we did not anticipate. It wasn't what the contractor had put before us, but we will explain the reasons for it, and we do want to put it in the context that it is still getting done in a very expedited fashion relative to what we are used to and what we've been used to, but now with our new innovation are trying to really get things done more quickly. So that's kind of setting the context. I wanted to give the chief engineer a chance to say a few words about the process, and then we've got a slideshow actually that shouldn't take more than 10 minutes, but helps you understand not only what happened, but what's coming, as long as that's okay. I actually didn't ask how much time you want me on the agenda. I forgot. So I hope it's okay to take.
Well, you came a long way, so you should take whatever time you need, notwithstanding Brother Skoll's.
Okay.
You're the only thing on the agenda tonight. It's not usually.
Well, the only thing left.
I know, we were just sneaked in on a light agenda night, and the most important one where you got sworn in. So, I don't know, Rich, if you wanted to.
Sure, and I think after we get through myself and Wayne, we'll hand off to Eric too to give an overview of some of the strategies we're going to use or thinking about for mitigating any type of traffic issues we might have on the interstate or through the US 5 corridor. So that'll come.
And I want to say, we really do want to have feedback to some of our ideas, and that's also what I'm here to hear about. Excuse me.
Very good. So you may recognize me. About 20 years ago, I was on the Brattleboro Reformer hanging over the side of the West River Bridge in a photograph inspecting it. So I've been in this area a lot. I actually live in Newport, but I'm down here, and I used to be here a lot back in those days, and I was very familiar with this corridor. And when I became chief engineer almost a decade ago now, it wasn't too long after that, around 08, 09, where I visited this corridor with my bridge design team and the program managers, and we visited the West Dome bridges and then the West River bridges, and it brought back fond or not so fond memories of just what we were up against with these aging bridges. And knowing they're some of the first ones also that were built on the interstate corridor in the state of Vermont. And the team, and Wayne's going to show you how quickly jumped on this new concept of design build, and I'm happy to say that we're in the position we are to actually see, even with this extended construction period, to realize that the Whetstone Brook bridges as well as the West River bridges are poised to be brand-new bridges carrying interstate traffic at the end of 2016. So it's been quite a ride in a relatively short amount of time when you consider how some of these projects were traditionally done with design, bid, build. That said, we do have the message, though, to carry that it is taking longer than we had originally said to you once we had this contract up and running. A lot of innovation, a lot of challenges that the contractor faced when we did hit the ground running, digging into the earth. One of the issues was, and Wayne may touch upon these again, is a stormwater permit added some days to get the work underway. And then after that, there were some subsurface issues with the hardness of rock and even groundwater that added some days. But the real critical point was it's a very complex construction piece that you've seen more recently at the tops of the piers. A lot of reinforcing steel going together, and it was forecasted. They had every plan to do it in the summer months with all that heavy lifting, confined space, and all the details involved. But because of the other delays, it pushed that work into the winter months, which just bogged them right down when it came to production. Not just the weather, but think about it, that time of the year, daylight hours are a lot shorter as well, so it really hampered their delivery time. But we're working with them to bring as much to bear that they can possibly bring. The Secretary has been very supportive in engaging their leadership at the national level and international level and say, we need this done expeditiously, as well as a high-quality product that we all can deliver to generations. We want a 100-year life out of this bridge. So with that, I'll hand off to Wayne for a slideshow to give you a better idea of what we've been doing and what we're up against the rest of the way.
Must have been when it was snowing.
They have the last one. Was it working before?
Yep, he had it up and running.
I wonder if you wanted to turn it off.
There we go. We're getting light now.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you all see?
Your screen.
Yeah, this is what happened at the PowerPoint last week.
Yep.
Took a little time after it shut down.
Yeah, it's getting clearer.
It's
Is your
getting dark.
computer awake too, Wayne?
Here it comes.
Sorry.
It's coming.
That's great.
Nice and sharp.
Coming into
Okay.
focus.
They'll be warming up. So, just gonna skip to this one. So, just wanted to kind of start with where we kind of started. In 1958, about 60 years ago, the steel deck truss, both of those bridges that were constructed, were pretty much state of the art. This bridge was written up in engineering journals as a feat of great engineering. It was a bridge that students studied, and if you look at it, it kind of matched the technology of the time. People were able to stick build it with relatively small machinery, and they kind of built it out over the West River from each end. But, in 60 years, we've learned a lot about the impact that traffic and road salts have on our structures. And so as we looked to replace this, we were looking for something that had a 100-year life. And, at this time, we have removed the northbound, and we're beginning to construct the next version of the West River Bridge. This bridge is called a segmental box girder construction, and it's constructed with a technique that's called balanced cantilever, which is a fancy way of saying that it's built out from the pier out over the spans. This bridge is going to be a single structure, about 104 feet wide, and it's about 1,084 feet long, and it's going to be one bridge that's going to replace both of those steel girders or steel truss structures that I showed you a minute ago. It does have some aesthetic features. There's a viewing platform that you can see, but the real key is that this is a durable bridge, and we're building an extra width on top so that we can do maintenance activities to also extend the life. So when we do those maintenance activities, once this bridge is open, we're going to be able to maintain 2 lanes of traffic and still have a lane to do the maintenance on. So that's really what's driving the extra width. So the first major component of this bridge that's just finishing up right now are the construction of the columns. So when we came down here about 2 years ago and had a meeting in the high school of Brattleboro, we were talking about aesthetics and some of the other things. And one of the first things we heard was we really want an open concept for piers, and we really kind of like this gateway feature. So one of the things the design build team came up with is this really aesthetic kind of open pier concept, 4 columns that are relatively slender looking, but if you're standing there on the ground, they're actually quite massive. And we're just up to the top of that. So that's the pier section that I'm talking about there. Just some renderings from what it's going to look like underneath. And you can see actual reinforcing steel on the right for the cages that were coming up out of the foundation. There is some shots of the completed pier columns late last fall, early winter. So once those pier columns were complete, we entered into the construction phase of probably the most complex piece of the whole bridge, and that's something that's called a pier table. These pier tables, as Rich talked about a minute ago, were completely intended to be built last summer. Actually, one was going to be built last summer and one was going to be built this summer. Very complex, lots of reinforcing steel, very tight tolerances, and also pieces that are not really readily enclosed during construction. When we build concrete structures in the winter, because of quality, we really want to enclose those, keep it heated so that we can have good quality concrete. And striving to do that in the winter has really been a challenge for the contractor here. So that segment there that's in blue is the pier table. So if you kind of look at some of the engineering drawings, some schematics, every one of those lines represents a piece of reinforcing steel in that pier table. Lots and lots of stresses and a lot of reinforcement go into this. If you kind of break it apart and you look down on top in the concrete segments, that's what it's going to look like inside. Again, kind of complex forming, but also we're talking about something that's on the order of 20 feet high inside of there. So it's a really big structure. Again, just another piece, another rendering of the complexity of the reinforcing steel inside of there. So here's a picture of last fall them building the false work on which the pier table is going to be built. And here's a shot of the initial forms of the pier table. And again, if you can imagine trying to heat that enclosure and doing concrete when snow and other things are landing, that has really been a challenge for them. And so something that started out as a few month delay, unfortunately has sort of escalated to a few more months on top of that. And that's where we find ourselves now, is at a location where the pier table isn't constructed at this time and as we were hoping. So once the pier table is constructed, we're going to be embarking on balanced cantilever construction. So much like you saw in the original picture of the truss being built kind of segmentally out over the stream, that's how this is being built as well. So in the next few months, you're going to start to see these large forms that get set on top, and they're going to be building out 12 or 16 feet at a time, and it's going to come out over Route 30, and it's going to come out over the West River Bridge at the same time. It's important for everybody to note that we do realize that the contractor is working over traffic and all the safety provisions are being taken care of. And it may just be worth just reminding everybody to be careful about watching construction in the work zone and kind of keep your eyes on the road. But we are going to maintain a safe work zone through there, even though they're working in these forms above. So these segments in blue, these are actually the concrete segments that the bridge is constructed from. And again, it's going to start out on Pier 1, which is near Route 30, and it's going to work out across that span and halfway across the West River. Here's some renderings of what the form travelers are going to look like up on top. And here's an example of another bridge that's being constructed that's pretty similar. So just kind of pictorially, this is, we are right now ready to embark on the top level, where we're going to be doing the 2 spans from Pier 1. We're going to complete that, and then the contractor is going to move the form travelers and that equipment over to Pier 2, and they're going to go across and they're going to meet just about in the middle of the West River and tie it all together. So here's the bottom line on the schedule. Right now, both of the piers, the columns are complete as of right now. We are anticipating that Pier Table 1, that complex segment that I was talking about, is going to be completed in May. And the Pier Table 2, that same complex segment, we're back on schedule to build it this summer in the warm months so that we should get good production, and that will be completed by October. At the same time they're working on that pier table, they're going to be extending these segments, and the schedule right now is for them to be done half of the segments over Route 30 and halfway over the West River by November of 2015. And then completing the rest of the segments and the closure pour by August of 2016. We'll have the barriers up and the road tied in November of 2016. And the most important piece, substantial completion, and for us that means that the bridge is going to be open for its intended use of 2 lanes in each direction in November of 2016. Following that, there's going to be a few months of demolition of the southbound bridge, and then the plan is that late spring, early summer of 17, they'll be doing the final cleanups, but during that time, folks will be able to use the bridge for 4 lanes of traffic, 2 in each direction. The bottom line is that all of the delays and the complications roll up to almost exactly a 1-year, 1 construction season delay. We have the contractors' attention. They're working really diligently in making sure that they have the right people and they're getting back on track and ready to meet these schedules. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to talk a little bit about where we're at with public relations.
Yeah, one thing real quick too is that Eric's going to talk about some of the challenges we had right now with some traffic management issues as well on the interstate. And you know, looking back to 08 when I met with staff here on what are we going to do, certainly we were recognizing the last thing we wanted was an unplanned closure where we had to put everybody down to Brattleboro. So we're poised to eliminate that risk altogether. And but in the interim, with this construction phasing, we do have some challenges with traffic on the interstate and at times in your village. So Eric's going to give an overview of what we're doing on that front as well.
Okay, I get to talk about some things that affect you guys every day. You have a little handout. I want you to.
While you're handing that out, I also just want to mention that Rich mentioned that we asked the contractor to come and really try to get back on track with a schedule we can all agree to, which is what we presented to you. We finally got that in writing from the contractor, and I came here as quickly as I could because I want you to hear it. We don't want to sweep any information under the rug. But one of the things we asked the contractor is what more can we do to mitigate the traffic? Obviously, that's the big thing. So that's kind of part of what we're talking about. And in that sense, we're focused on traffic mitigation on the interstate, but what I want to hear from you is what our mitigation efforts mean to you and your community.
So on the highway, we've been having a lot of high volume weekends with skiing and 4th of July, and some of the last year's been kind of a struggle with some of the backups and delays that's been on the highway. It's set up so that I get alert messages every time there's something slower than 15 miles an hour down to stopping traffic. So, and it progressively, some weekends it's upwards of 100 alerts, and we're trying to find ways to do some proactive solutions for that. Right now, every time we have a high volume weekend, we're going out to the stakeholder. I'm not sure if everyone's on the list for that, but it's an email list that the public information officer has. So that sends out any updates to the stakeholders. They're also posted on our website, which is I-91 Brattleboro Bridge. Also, what Cindy does is coordinates with 511. We have a traffic operations center in Montpelier, and they put out the 511 map and any updates there. They also do some good work for us and put it up on the message boards. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but on weekends, if you're driving up Friday night, you'll see it says expect possible delays Sunday when you're returning. I'm sure everybody's seen those as well. It also gets put out on Facebook and tweets on the weekend. Well, what we have right now for our maintenance of traffic, MOT, it's down to one lane, as everybody knows. And before the project began, they did an analysis of how many cars could fit in each lane each way. And theoretical is about 1,550 cars capacity. And we seem to see problems right around 1,300 or so. So Friday nights, it really maxes out about 1,300 there going north. But the thing that complicates it is the work zone coming south. You have two merges. You have a merge, and then you get off the exit, and then you have another merge of people coming on the exit. So if we look at the sheet that I handed out, kind of gives you an example of our work site up top. What we decided to do, we would do an analysis of the traffic patterns around here. And we looked at some of the busier weekends in March and February, Columbus Day, 4th of July. So we had Sebago they're working with a design build team. They're the traffic engineer, their study. What he came up with seems very simple. And it was kind of overlooked and kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, well, that seems pretty simple, is to close down exit 3 southbound. What happens there is that if you work your way down to the traffic data, you'll see anytime the flow gets between 300 and 700 cars per hour, it backs up the highway. So basically people are coming on the highway and the people traveling through are putting on their brakes, which causes everybody to stack up behind them. So he went through and he looked at all these devices. If you notice, we have a Q10, Q11, and Q12. Well, 10 is before the first merge, where people are coming in before exit 3. 11's right after the merge, and then 12's going back up the hill, going south. And he pretty much noticed that every time you had your high volumes of people coming on exit 3 southbound, it would cause backups. So if you go down to the bottom chart here, you'll have your devices on the left, 10, 11, and 12. We say Memorial Day, you have the volumes here and the speeds from 14. Independence Day, when you can look, if you go across, right in the middle, there's March 8th. That's this year without a closure. So before we determined we wanted to try this, we tried this exit 3 roundabout closure on the 15th. And if you look at the volume of traffic, it pretty much stayed consistent, and the speeds all stayed up right where they're supposed to. And to make sure it wasn't a fluke, we did it again this past weekend, and we actually had a very high volume, closer to 6,500, and the speeds also remained very, consistent through the work zone. So this is one of the strategies we were trying to try out and see how it worked. And from the 2 weekends that we did, it seemed to work very well. As we go, if you flip over, it goes through the conclusion. From talking to people in town, it seems that by closing that, people, southbound traffic having to come through town. It was busy this past weekend. The first weekend wasn't so bad, but it picked up this past weekend, so we'd like to get some input after I'm done talking on what you saw, what you think there.
Eric, what is the speed zone to the zone now?
50.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was reading this correctly, that
Yeah.
basically everybody is breaking the law. I just
Pretty much coming into it, going out of it, yeah.
just wanted to point that out.
So, moving
Duly
forward.
noted.
Money to be made.
So moving forward, these dates aren't set as on the back part of this, where the next 2 weekends that we kind of project out from last year's data. We have the smart work zone. It gives us all the data from last year. We're trying to project where the busiest weekends. You can see that the next two are the busiest out of until we get to Memorial Day. So tentatively, we were going to ask what you guys thought about doing it for 2 more weekends in a row. Underneath that, you can see where we have it set up. Exit 3 ramp. We've had not a lot, but a few closures of the interstate in this project. Anywhere from pothole repairs to, during demo we had a 26-hour closure as well. So we managed to collect a few signs during that time, so that the closest well signed. We actually added some message boards this weekend. If anybody saw those, we put them in north and south and coming in from 9. So, and I know the town works with us during this times to put the lights on blinking, and not all of them, I understand, but a lot of them, we really appreciate the help with that. We're also looking at other ideas to do. This isn't the only one. We have some other thoughts on the matter as far as possibly moving the merge, maybe move it north a little further. Everybody gets in single lane sooner, and everybody's diving up. People are getting off the exit, leaves gaps for the southbound coming on. Also looking at maybe the other way, moving the merger. But this is one of the things we wanted to try, and I know we sprung it on you kind of late, but it seemed to work very well. We appreciate all the help you guys gave us.
I do notice the merge coming south from exit 4 down to exit 3. When you get to exit 3, it really is fast. I mean, it merges and then the on-ramp is coming on.
Yeah, I think what people notice is that the on-ramp's going so fast that the main traffic is braking
Right.
for them instead
For
of the other
them,
way around.
exactly.
Yeah, so it definitely creates some issues. I mean, we did try to help travel and public out some of the improvements that we've done with the glare screens. I don't know if anybody's travels through there every day, but you might hear those.
I wish you'd done that a year ago. That
Yeah.
was horrible before that went up.
So that was one of the things we've done. We're trying to improve to get the word out. And hopefully you guys have no problem getting all the messages and alerts and anything that's coming up. We try to make sure you all know. If you ever have any questions, my office is right up at the pink building there by the marina upstairs. So I'm there full time.
So Eric is here all the time to hear your questions and concerns, but I'm here today and I'm really interested in, thank you very much for, we're trying new things. We're trying to mitigate, but really wanted to hear your thoughts or any questions that you have.
I want to thank you very, very much for coming and talking with us. Because I'm starting my 5th year on the board today, and I don't recall having this sort of dialogue before with the state in the last 4 years. So that's really, really helpful, and I want to thank you for coming and speaking with us and for providing us with the comprehensive presentation. It helps when we get notice, obviously sooner rather than later. And my recollection, and this is all in the spirit of cooperation, but my recollection is that all of us learned that exit 3 was going to be closed 2 weeks ago via press release saying it was happening. And I communicated to the town manager, and I said, don't recall that ever happening before. And that could be a real significant issue, and we need to monitor that. And we were then playing catch-up to try to respond to it and to analyze the impact on the town of Brattleboro. So I really do encourage the state and the contractor and everybody involved to be in touch with us as early as possible.
Who's the best point of contact, town manager?
Town manager.
Yeah.
Town manager.
And at this point, you were not notified?
Not the first time. The second time we were, and there is some line level communication that occurs directly with our emergency management team, frankly, because we
Yes.
approach it from that perspective. So Fire Chief Mike Bukasi has been the primary contact for that. So for something that's unfolding immediately, that we need to have some communication and some reaction to right away, you should continue to have your team communicate directly to Mike, and I'll find out about it right away from him. But for the planning in advance for these weekends and other things we might need to coordinate on, please use me.
Absolutely. We'll
Thank
do.
you.
And so as this thing was unfolding and we were contemplating the possibility of closing exit 3, I think it might have been nice to know before. So as you're thinking about other alternatives, please let us know as far in advance as possible that these are things that are being contemplated so that we can coordinate our response and our analysis. I got some other things to say, but it looks like you wanted to.
Well, I was just going to offer, is there any concern with us, Eric, having a distribution list to all of you on certain items and just really pump it out there quickly?
We've been added this week or the week before.
Yeah,
Cindy
that's-
Cook, is that the name? Cindy Cook's been sending us emails.
I told her to make sure that all you guys were on the contact list.
Yeah, I had no idea you weren't on that contact list, so I'm sorry to say that. I've only been the secretary for 2.5 months, but I really want to be present, and we want to be present, and, we are putting a lot more into our communication with communities, so we want to make sure that you are notified well in advance of anything we've got planned, so we'll make sure to do that.
The other thing I would note is that with the limited number of north-south corridors, anytime something happens on 91, it can and often does have a way substantial impact on traffic through the downtown. And we've had really significant experiences, particularly in foliage season, of bumper-to-bumper traffic from the north end of town on Route 5 all the way through downtown and down to exit 1 and through on to exit 2 on Western Avenue as well. And it really shows the totally intertwined nature of these corridors and the fact that anything happening on 91 has a potential to really adversely impact traffic on the local roads here. And there's been some amount of reimbursement by the state to the town for some of that impact when 30 and Upper Dummerston Road were being closed. There was a quantification of the anticipated impact, and so we got some money back for the impact on the road and I think for coverage on the road. But there are substantial costs that we bear as a town, as a municipality, for whatever happens up on I-91. And so when we were needing to analyze what was going on with the exit 3 closure, we needed to marshal our administrative personnel and our line personnel in order to see how it impacted us. And then when the highway closes, we need to bring our police on board. We need to be dealing with the traffic lights. And as the regional economic hub, we're already saddled with way substantial costs to support the regional economy that we can't raise money to help defray other than through property taxes here. And I don't want to go into a sideline to deal with that taxing fairness issue, but I don't know if there's any way for the state to look at those costs and to try to quantify the impact on the town and to reimburse us. Those costs would appear to be hidden to the state, but they're not hidden to us. And our taxes reflect the fact that we're bearing the cost of that highway being down to 2 lanes, one in each direction for a long period of time. And at the very least, even if there's no process to deal with those individual costs, we've got aging infrastructure all over town, and we're putting in for AOT grants all the time. And we certainly hope that we're getting full consideration in all of those applications, because we are, like I say, bearing the costs hidden to the state but clearly visible to us for the full length of time that this highway's been at 1 lane each direction, and it totally bottles up consistently, and there's a lot of other ways it impacts us. Thank you.
Understood.
While we're on the subject, we, next month, on the 14th, I believe, is the tentative date. We need to do a bridge inspection on the current bridge there. So instead of emailing you, I'll tell you directly that
It's a complete closure.
This could be closed, but it's still tentative.
And how many hours? I'm sorry.
Could be 8 to 10 hours.
This is on the 14th, right?
Tentative. That's a confirmation here.
Well, how early, how much warning will we be able to give for that? And
I think we're pretty confident that's the date, but I could give you definitely a week notice, 2 weeks notice.
Yeah, please do that. And I'd like to note, for the record, after that disappointment on the first weekend, when we heard about it through the media, we conveyed that to some of you who are here and others of your teammates, and you reacted really well to that. So not only are you here tonight so that we can go forward in a better way, but the second weekend was far better in terms of the advanced planning we were able to do together because you got in touch with us early in the week. So yeah, please, for something as significant as a weekday 8 or 10 hour complete shutdown, look, as soon as you know, as far in advance as possible, it's going to really happen. Let's have that same kind of a huddle. And I'm sorry?
It's going to happen on
He's
that
telling you now.
Well, there we go. So-
What is the type of work that's being done?
It's, to recall, I was hanging over the side of the
Right.
steel truck.
Yeah.
More of that
That.
on the one that's still in service.
Okay.
So
We have to
there's,
meet federal-
that can't be done at night.
That's not very practical and not, being a hands-on inspection with
Right.
lights and everything, daytime is the
Okay.
time to do it, yeah. That said, though, there is opportunity to consider, if you had time to plan, and your community had time to plan, and your businesses had time to plan to say, okay, we're gonna have some traffic coming on this day for 8 hours, what
Right.
can we do
Put
to
out
market
the
this a
lemonade
little bit?
stands and,
That's something that if you want some more time to do that a little bit more aggressively, I think we can work towards that.
Thank you.
That might be a win-win, a little bit better
Yeah.
win-win for everybody.
Thank you. And I think that would be really helpful. So we'll be in touch immediately to talk about what that looks like to you in terms of deadlines you have to meet, but some breathing space beyond April 14th to allow us to figure out what that means, where that opportunity is embedded in this, that would be really
I
helpful.
guess we could say that it needs to be done before Memorial Day. Before
Okay.
Traffic picks back up, so.
Okay.
We recognize through our data that that was one of the slowest days in the next 2 months, the 14th, so.
I see.
We certainly can look at another date.
Okay, great. Thank you.
when you're doing the inspection, can you fix some of the potholes a little more effectively?
That would be the plan.
And we, one of the other requests of the contractor was not just to get a schedule we know we can meet, look at different traffic mitigations, it was to do additional inspections. So while I want you to have advance notice, I want us to get those done. And we will be doing them, I don't know how routinely, but I know we've committed to continuing through this because it is longer, as you know, than we anticipated, but that's for everybody's sake.
Can you see any other delays? Can the contractor look into his crystal ball a little bit and see if there's going to be anything else that's going to impact a delay? Or is now everything, because of the columns being completed, I mean, which is probably one of the major parts of And the top part,
that pier table.
The pier
So when we requested a revision and a commitment to a date, they have added new resources, they've added new people, they're doing double shifts. I mean, they are upping their game. They told us, we're not just giving you our A team, we're giving you our A+ team. We have, I think, some more attention from them, and we've asked, is that a date you believe in and will hold to? And they have said yes, they believe in that date. That's as much as I can say. It does feel like from our folks, and it isn't just our team, you know, the Federal Highway Administration has been working with us. What more could we expect from this contractor? And everyone feels like this is as the best we can come up with. And everyone feels confident in that date.
do you think the contractor underestimated our winters?
Absolutely, I do. And
Well, everybody
this was not a
No,
normal
but
winter.
we have winters. and-
Last two.
Yeah. And we've had some dandies.
They were the old-fashioned.
They also had a flood in that.
Right.
So they had a flood in the October or winter of 14. They were behind from the permitting, the hardness under the ground that was required to get the pier up, and that everything set back so that what they had to do in winter was difficult under the conditions, especially this winter. But we do believe that they're on track to get it done in the time they're now committing to. And I'm getting weekly updates, the governor's getting weekly updates. The governor has been on the phone personally with the chief operating officer. You know, we really are trying to reinforce how important this is to our state. We realize how critical it is for our tourism economy and your local economy. So
To reinforce what the Secretary is saying and further address your question is, they heard the Secretary and the Governor loud and clear. And this is a company that takes pride. I mean, they're a huge corporation that a signature bridge like this, they don't want to fail on their next due date that they gave us. So I'm pretty confident we shall see that they gave a date that they know they can achieve and likely maybe even improve a little bit, but we'll see. I feel real comfortable that they're going to make the date that they gave us this time around.
I just want to second the gratitude that you took the time to come down. It makes sense, the timing. It's a project I think we all would much rather have done carefully and thoughtfully than have, you know, it be rushed. It makes sense to have it in the context of the offering that this project, this bridge becomes to the future generation. I think that just having us be able to speak to our community and to remind them of that frame, to put that frame on this project. And it just helps to know the construction, why it's taking time, and your best guess at when it will be done. So thank you so much for your thorough presentation and for the traveling that you did to come and present to us tonight.
You guys are gonna
Very
have an
welcome.
amazing bridge.
We are.
One of a kind.
Yes, we are. And it's good looking.
I guess the only other question I have is whether any of the department heads have anything that they want to inquire about.
Uh-oh.
That's why I asked you.
Steve Barrett, Director of Public Works. A few things. One thing that's important to us is that the contractor utilize their sign packages and make sure these detours are properly signed. With this last detour along the route, I think it's important to have additional signs so that motorists that have to take this detour know clearly where to go. And signboards, I know at one of the last meetings I was not, but maybe the chief can talk to it. We did urge more signboards itself to instruct motorists where to go. The detours do have a big impact on our local roads because this truck traffic impacts our terrible roads as they are. And that, I know you hear that throughout the state, but we have a bad section of roadway between I-91 and Main Street on Route 9. And it's kind of falling apart now, and any of these detours have more of an impact on those roads. I did go up and look at the detour last Sunday. It seemed to go well. I was surprised at the amount of truck traffic on a Sunday. You'd be a little surprised. And so I do have some concerns also with those truck traffic with the northbound lane going to Putney, putting all that extra truck traffic and extra traffic on Route 5, but I know there's not a lot of alternatives. But I have talked that over with the engineers that maybe some consideration for, you know, do we have to close the northbound lane? Could we just do the southbound lane? in an emergency, it's definitely important to just shut both those lanes off, because when police officers get there, it's easy, it's clean. On a planned detour, maybe there could be some consideration to still have the northbound on-ramp open and eliminate that extra traffic from going. On another note, I know that the contractor is responsible during emergencies. We've had several, and our emergency team here is prepared to react and help out, and we have, with accidents or other things that happen there. But I do know that in the contract, the contractor is supposed to have a team that's ready to mobilize anytime with traffic signs. And I think that's been a little weak. So I noticed at one of the accidents, one of the troopers struggled to get barricades, to block off exit 2. So I'd just like, to bring that up as an intention, so it's on the record. And then not to keep going on.
Please do, that's why I asked Steve.
This is what we do. I mean, we've been working really close, Derek and the contractor, and, overall, this project's gone really well for the size of it. All the previous closures have gone really well, and I know that, I can take part in the blame of the select board not knowing, but a lot of these projects, they go pretty seamless between the emergency services and the town manager, and sometimes the board isn't also informed on some of these projects, but I can see its importance. One more issue is on Upper Dummerston Road. We have a Brattleboro resident that has been affected by some of the stormwater runoff, and I'm still concerned about that. And then with the delay in the project, I know once the new bridge is put in, any of the runoff issues will be eliminated, but then now I'm concerned because there's a delay in the deck. So I'd like to make sure that that still is addressed, that we look at that situation with the resident.
I think this may be the same resident we heard about from the state representative previously, so we'll make sure to follow
And
up.
I've met myself, and I've met, with the contractor and your resident engineer, and I think there's some legitimate concerns there. I know there was a survey done on the runoff that may contest that, but still, if you look at it visually, you can see there's a certain amount of runoff that impacts this homeowner's property. And now it's going to be longer because of the delay in the project. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's just one of 3.
Well, I do want to just follow up to make sure I heard you, that we need additional signage on the detour, and you're not seeing it adequately signed at this point.
We originally put up some signs, the town did, and more upon the corridor of Route 5 for any emergencies, so we put up some additional signs. But I think one night we actually utilized our own signboards to assist. But I guess the answer is, no, I don't think it's adequately signed, and I think there could be improvement.
Okay.
Oh, I was up to Putney last weekend, and there was just no indication that traffic was supposed to be following a detour through from exit 3 and then getting on by the Putney, what used to be the Putney Inn. There was just zero indication.
Okay. I'll make sure that changes. So one thing you see on the sheet that, we've got a few more Sunday closures up for, that is being recommended to us, followed by none. I guess I'm interested in, do you want us to continue with this experiment a few more weeks? Do you want us to absolutely not? What's your feedback? I hear better signage.
As long as, if the signage can be improved.
I also hear you about the northbound. We've been asking the same thing. It's an unsafe situation unless we can figure out some way to enable someone who goes the wrong way to turn around. I'm also interested in what happens when we extend further north, the actual merge, or how do you describe that? Yeah.
Yep.
So, unless I
guess my response to your request for input about whether the closure should continue or not, I'm not really sure the board at this point is in a position to weigh in on that topic. The town manager, working with the department heads, have been assessing the impact, and I think they really need to confer and to assess how it's affecting us, and then to coordinate with the personnel from your agency. The board, I don't think, has got enough information to be able to answer that question.
Fair enough. Good. We're going to have a great product at the end. We'll all be proud of it. I know it's an endurance. I have the same issue going on in Waterbury. We're doing the same thing on exit 10. I know the impacts, and it really matters to us, and we're going to try to mitigate those and work together even better than we already have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One more question?
One more question.
Yes, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
The next,
Are you, the next closure, potential closures on the 29th?
no.
Yeah, they said the next
right.
2 weekends.
All right.
Right, but are we just, I thought, like, are they happening? Are they are we doing it? Was that the question?
Yeah, they're happening unless we ask them not to and work
Okay.
out a different plan.
All
Right.
So we can assume that they're happening.
Yes, and actually, so my 2 cents on that would be, because we're talking actively about how to improve this process, doing the one more makes a lot of sense. Let's get a better plan in place for this coming weekend and see how that
Right.
turns out compared to last weekend. Whether we need another weekend after that, I think, is dependent on what goes on this weekend. And our team is ready to work with your team to, keep working through that process.
Excellent.
Steve, go ahead.
Well, I'd just like to add that I think is important to continue this trial, because the more information we get, we all know that this pretty soon is going to be, mud season, it's not as busy. And this will give us good, solid information for the busier times of the year, when it puts a real strain on us. But I think it's worked pretty well, and to gather more information and data is important. So I support it.
And while we're coordinating about this coming weekend and the one after, we'll engage with you very clearly and constructively about the 14th and how to look forward to that inspection that needs to happen and what would be best timing for that.
Getting signed packages from the state would be useful to provide, getting signed package from the state would be useful for us giving notice to people about what's coming locally, because there's very little notice on the local roads.
Yeah. And in terms of notice, we are trying to do one more idea that we were contemplating is having like a text alert for your residents who want to sign up for one, so that they can be notified through their phones automatically when and if we have to close anything for any reason.
I think
We're implementing it.
On the website already.
right, and the more different
that
methods
word
we
out.
have of reaching out, the better. So that's good. The concern we have, and again, we're still getting our arms around actual impacts versus expected impacts, but the concern we have is that the largest volume of traffic that's going to impact us during these closure weekends is transient traffic, not local traffic.
local, yeah.
So it becomes an inconvenience for local folks trying to move around in the community, but the impact is created by people who wouldn't be signed up for that service. So
But
I think doing that and lots of additional signage is what we need.
So exactly, not only additional signage, but what we're also doing is working with our tourism department, and we're alerting innkeepers. During the ski season, we were focused on the resorts, having people stay longer. We're trying to give more real-time information, which you can get on the website. We're trying to figure out how to use that as a phone. So we're looking at new techniques for what we're calling a smart work zone. And this is new for us. It's actually a whole new area in our department that we're trying to create, to modernize essentially. But to your point, we're working towards that.
Great, thank you.
It seems like most of the traffic that's not going to get on the interstate that has come through town is coming from New Hampshire on Route 9, particularly the trucks. Is there any way you can talk
Divert
to
them.
New Hampshire in terms of their innkeepers or what?
We were
Just wrote that down myself, and I was going to follow up with a question of, do you get a sense, being that you live here and see it, what the primary destinations are that they're leaving on Sundays from New Hampshire, or is it ski resorts, is it?
It's the ski
all the
resorts.
Ski resorts as well?
This time of year,
Yeah.
I would think it's primarily the ski resorts.
And which
But like,
I think they'd be
the
getting
truck
on the
traffic is,
interstate further
that's
north.
something I can't determine. And I don't know if CNS has anything to do with that, or, but
There's robust truck traffic going back
Yeah,
and forth.
Route 9's a
Keene,
major
so-
east-west route, they could be coming all the way from Maine.
right.
Sure.
I mean, there is an issue about signage into New Hampshire and in Massachusetts when people are coming north, when we've got closures at exit 1. When you get past the Bernardston exit,
That's it.
you're stuck, and it's the same way it'd be good to have signage north of exit 4 if you're really backed up at exit 3, because then people can get off at exit 4 rather than you being stuck on the highway, but that's really not happened yet.
Maybe our DMV can help out too with the trucking industry. So, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you so much for coming. Is there any other business? We're ready for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Any, all those in
It's not
favor,
quite
please say
10
aye.
o'clock.